Hey there, Submarine fans. It's Eric from the subvet.com. You're listening to the Subvets Live. Hey there, everybody out there in submarine land. Joining us today, we have Commander, don't call him Sir, Ryan Ramsey, join us back from the United Kingdom. He is the current CEO of BMM Networks, a network management company focused on cutting-edge clean energy provisions to serve up and the up-and-coming EV community with all those fancy new automobiles out there that need to be charged. He is also the author of the book SSN 14, where he was the CEO of the HMS Turbulent in its final days before she decommissioned. He also taught the famed Perisher course for UK's prospective new submarine commanders. Ryan, don't call him Sir Ramsey, also exudes leadership skills and wants to give the knowledge and gift of servant-based leadership to all who will listen and want to succeed personally and run a successful and profitable organization too. And also we have today Patrick Cleveland. He is a U.S. Navy submarine veteran, joined the Navy in the late 1980s, serving in the fleet in the final years of the Cold War. He was on the USS Will Rogers, the USS Nevada, and as well as rubbing some elbows with some admirals in the submarine squadron out there in Bangor, Washington area. His last duty station was Naval Ordnance Test Unit, Cape Canaveral, where he participated and conducted multiple test launches of test instrumented Trident missiles off of the UK and US submarines. He worked in telecommunications and completed a culinary degree from Le Cordon Bleu and worked with the who's who in the foodie world, including live shows with celebrity chefs. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. How's everybody doing out there?
Hey, all good.
All right, good. So the biggest news that's happening in the UK right now is the passing of the Queen yesterday, and she had the longest reign in monarchy history. Yeah, you get. What can you add and tell us about that?
It's correct. Well, mood's obviously very somber over in the UK at the moment. It's amazing, you know, if you consider the majority of the population never get to meet the Queen, and yet everybody's unified in grief of her loss. Yeah, quite somber, but as always, we'll progress through and carry on, and that's what Brits do.
So now, obviously, the whole world is sorry to hear that, and a lot of the world really pay attention to what goes on in the monarchy in England, especially because, you know, all the pageantry with weddings and stuff like that, and now so we will have a funeral, and I'd like you to go into more, you know, what's that process like, and then we'll be going into the coronation of the new king too, as well. If you can give us some thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, state funerals are extreme. So basically, there's 10 days of mourning now, and then there'll be a state funeral after that. And then after that, yes, that Prince Charles. I mean, he's doing a speech later today, or his first speech is King Charles III, and then we'll transition to a new monarch. The considerable change there, if you think about it, 70 years we've had a queen. All of our post boxes, our currency, our stamps, everything is she, and everything is her. And so there's going to be some huge transition to move towards a he and a king effectively during that period of time.
So that's just crazy to think. So I didn't really think about that. So you, on the last podcast we had, you kind of went into some of the politics of how that's connected. What kind of power, if you will, does the monarch really have with, you know, the current system that you have?
Yes, so in reality, the monarch isn't responsible for running the country. Although if you go into UK law, there are points where the monarch could dissolve Parliament, for example, to start again. And interestingly, the last two, so King Charles I and King Charles II, both dissolved Parliament. So basically you dissolve and then start again. So they can do some things, but they stay apolitical. They're there as a figurehead, and to be fair to the Queen, over that last 70 years, she's been the stalwart figure that, despite all of the ups and downs that the UK has gone through, she's been a steady figure for people to leave her off.
So that's just a lot to think of it. So obviously the military is going to be really big and involved with the funeral.
Correct.
And then
Yeah, they are.
coronation. So Pat, you got anything to add to that?
Well, I had a question. You were talking about the currency. Will that change with the?
Well, so I think it will have to eventually. I can't believe that's going to be a quick transition. And equally, we're in a massive cost of living crisis, and financially, or our economy is really, really struggling at the moment. So I can't believe we'd want to spend more taxpayers' money changing everything, when in fact we need to divert that to dealing with the cost of living crisis. So it'd be interesting to see how all of this plays out. But what it has done is, we are going through some tough times politically. It's all over the place politically. And this tragedy ends up focusing an entire nation on one thing that will eventually end positively, and just takes a break from the day-to-day grind the politicians are putting us through.
With a new prime minister and the Queen passing all at the same time, that's going to be a lot. So
the prime minister has recently resigned, Boris Johnson, anyways. So King Charles, he will kind of have his, I don't know, what would be say? Does he have a lot in installing who comes in next, or is that selected by Parliament?
You're gonna have a new one.
No, so the new Liz Truss is the new prime minister. So in basic terms, what because our electoral system is probably not as modern as it should be. Effectively, the Conservative Party, who are the party in power, decided who the next prime minister should be. So only 0.01% of the nation got to choose who our next leader was, which is crazy when you think about it. So, and Boris didn't resign particularly; he was forced out because of a basically loss of confidence from his own MPs.
That's just nuts. So yeah, so you're going to be a lot of changes in England. Did you ever meet the Queen at any time?
Yeah, I did. I've been fortunate enough to meet royals on a variety of occasions, as you'd expect within the military. So I was part of a Guard of Honor when I first joined back in the 80s. So when she came to Dartmouth, I was part of the escort for the Queen's Colour. So I got to meet her then, and I also got to meet her a little later on when I was a lieutenant as well.
So did you have any words with any of the royals? Like, and what would that be like? I mean, does it kind of official, or can you actually have like a conversation with them?
So they do when they come to sea with you. So Princess Anne came to sea when I was on board HMS Talent. I've also met Prince Charles as well, and they're down to earth, and they have decent conversations with you. They're fascinated, obviously, by the Navy, the technology, everything else that goes with that, and they really are, when they get to sea within that confined environment. They're really talkable. They get around everybody. They just want to meet people and hear from them. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
Yeah, because they kind of come down into your realm, because submariners have got a submarine, and
everything's fascinating.
Yeah. I bet that would have been something else to watch at. So Pat, I mean, you being, I don't know, and your way, the way Pat has a twisted mind and the way he thinks about things. He's just out there and crazy and stuff like that. So. I mean, what do you? I mean, what are your thoughts about? I don't know how the U.S. is going to react to this. You remember with Princess Diane. You remember
with the royals and all that.
Yeah. So obviously, this is going to be on all our the CNN, Fox News, you name it.
There's always been a certain part of America that's just enamored with England.
And we're just kind of looking in. A lot of people don't know it as well as somebody that lived there, and it's kind of interesting how Americans treat that. Like,
but I just remember, in high school, the whole Lady Di thing. It was all anybody could talk about. It was everything, and I think a lot of that carried on. Once you have somebody that you can attach yourself to, now you're interested. I always think of it like with golf, when you have a different guy win every time, you don't really follow it. But when you've got one guy who's solid, like Tiger Woods, or even like with tennis, you've got, Serena, you were suddenly interested. And I think with Lady Di, becoming Princess Diana, that was the big in for Americans to just follow this and be into the Royals. So
yeah, that's true, Ryan. Yeah, America really followed the Diane legacy, obviously leading up to her death. And we just kind of, Americans are kind of weird. They get focused on it when it's kind of big and they're interested in it, and then they disconnect and we don't know anything about it. So
I think for the UK, it's going to be interesting because I think we're at a generational tipping point where there will be the case that does the monarchy take a back seat and do less, much like, for example, the Dutch monarchy or the Danish monarchy is far less prevalent than the UK monarchy, and I think we're probably at that tipping point. Probably, Charles III will have his reign, but then there'll be real debate about whether we continue in this current format or we adopt a new format for it.
So this would be your big chance to run for politics now too, Ryan.
Yeah, but in general, is this more thought of as like a celebrity, or are they England's family, or how are the royals perceived modern day?
Once again, that comes down to a generational thing as well.
Yeah.
And I think my generation, probably Generation Y as well, look at them very much like you said, as this statesman figure that is part of the British fabric. But I think Generation Z look at it slightly differently. And they're eventually, I think the big case here is for Prince William to make the case for why to his own generation as to why the royalty should continue as it is. And I wouldn't think that the Meghan Markle Prince Harry thing also throws doubt into that generation as to the validity of a monarchy in its current state.
How old is Prince Charles, or King Charles now? How old is he?
I'm going to say 72, something like that. He's in his 70s.
So he's a healthy chap right now.
Yeah.
It just makes you wonder because Prince William would be next in line, right? Is that how that works?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And what were you going to say? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, sorry, no. Even at the age of 72, full of energy and so
vigor and
exactly. Looks after himself. So.
Certainly, I mean, the whole world is, as we know, politically in chaos and stuff, and I try to stay away from politics and all that kind of stuff. But so the last podcast, you just exuded leadership. I talked about that podcast for weeks after that. Man,
he was.
Yeah, I was just, man, Ryan's got it going on. He knows how to lead. I mean, he's teaching it properly. You serve the people you leave and stuff like that. So, Ryan, what would you do if? Because, you got that whole thing, don't call me sir, you're really close with your crews that you led. What would you do if you got knighted and then you had to be called Sir Ryan Ramsey? What would you do then?
I don't think I'd take it, to be honest. The whole bit about awards, and particularly that type of award, don't interest at all. Some people it's fascinating. So you're looking at some of the politicians who are all desperate to become lords and go into that, or lords and dames and go into the House of Lords, and you go, for what effect? You're still a person at the end of the day. You might have a title, but it doesn't make you any better a leader. So I'd rather be a really good leader and serve the people that want that type of leadership than have a title and prop around in the House of Lords, so to speak.
Yeah, I kind of enjoy the way your personality is kind of more laid back as just other people. Like, so I interviewed Commander Ian White a couple of years ago. Have you ever ran across that? I really like him too, but he's different type guy, way he talks and way he presents himself. So he kind of wanted to, just tell everybody, and it was an interesting podcast. I highly recommend people, because he talked about a lot of stuff from the Cold War, that he was involved with. So I mean, have you know him that well, or?
Yeah, I do know him. And it's interesting to say that, because I think there's also it's sort of a generational thing there as well, with a generation of leaders from the Cold War and beyond, and then beyond the Cold War, the generation of leaders that have led through that, and I think even now, the guys and girls who are captaining or leading on board submarines will be different to my generation, effectively.
So Pat, you remember when we did the operation on those UK boats, and and we really enjoyed the crew, and man, fantastic people. But you remember when they went into operation, like you went into MCC or control, they were just, it was dead serious. Do you remember that, Pat? You had to get out of the way, like they push you out of the way. They wouldn't even let you talk to them, because once they went into the routine, very focused.
Oh, well, like during the launches?
Yeah, during launch, or even just conducting just general.
Yeah, I mean, there's
navigating the ship. Yeah.
There's a level of professionalism, and I think the way we went about it was so different. We had oh god, casual excellence. you know, where we were so into being good at what we did, we thought that's just who we were, so we were casual about it. Where other people, when they're being professional and they're being tight and they are doing their best, they are focused and dialed in, where we're like, that's just how I roll, so yeah, the casual excellence is I think the thing that we did, and it showed differently to other people. So we always thought everybody else was more uptight than we were, because we had such high standards for ourselves that being your best was the only option. So don't sweat it.
So Ryan, I mean, you got to do a couple of years with U.S. crews, because you came over and served with what squadron were you with?
Devon 12, Concept Devon 12. They're out of Groton. I don't think they exist anymore, actually, but they there's all the tests, basically, testing new equipment, but also doing patrols as well.
So what did you think about what was your thoughts on some of the differences of how you saw the U.S. run things as compared to your boats?
Well, I think the so the really interesting bit before that was I did 2 years with Dutch Navy, so I saw a different. And that was really early on in my career. And then when I was a command rider for Flag Officer Sea Training, I would go and ride all of the submarines that came into British waters before they exercised. So I got to see, I went to see the Italians, the Portuguese, the Canadians, the Polish, Germans, loads of different crews, and that really helped me, because I think you within your service, if you only stay within your particular service, you think your service is always going to be the best and probably the only way to do it. Whereas I've seen everything, and therefore I can make an objective assessment about what's good on some submarine services and what's not. With the US Navy, I thoroughly enjoyed my time serving with the US Navy. I had a great 2 years, got to ride loads of boats, which is fantastic. And I took away from that we just did a few things differently, but equally we were as professional as each other. We just did things in a different way, and that was it. And neither was right or wrong. There was some good practice that I took over from the US when I went over to Turbulent, actually, because I thought, hey, look, this is the only chance when we get to do it in a different way, because I'm able to open it up that way. And so I took over some of that really good stuff and took it back and said, look, this is how we're going to do this. And I said, and let's talk for diving a submarine, for example, that the Navy dives an SSN one way, and they've always done it that way. And then obviously when I went to sea on 688s and also Virginia dived in a totally different way. And when I came back over, I said, hey, let's do it like this. And go, oh, no, we can't do it like that. Like this. And I went, no, this is going to work. Let's give it a go.
No,
and
trust
of course,
me.
we changed our process. And the only reason I was able to do that was because I'd seen how you guys did it.
So you were able to have that kind of pull and roll that out to the fleet, teaching the parachute course and stuff?
No, I couldn't roll it out to the fleet. So what we did was we did it on board Turbulent, and people who would come on board Turbulent would see that in action. And then it was for them to move out. And we had a process. So we wrote the process down and everything else that was needed to do it. And then when I was teaching the perisher course, that was my whole point, is there's no single way of doing this. Right. There are different processes, and you will get best practice from absolutely everywhere that you look. And it's a submarine that you're leading, and you want it to be the best that it possibly can. So just explore the boundaries a bit and learn from others.
You got any thoughts, Pat?
No, I like that. And, since I've moved on to the culinary world, it's the same way. If you work in one restaurant your whole life, you've got that one technique down and you could be a master of sorts. But you go to a new place with a new cuisine, say going from an Italian restaurant to a Chinese restaurant, and you're completely clueless. And so you have to start from scratch, learn new things. One of my favorite things is just commingling styles. Like I'll make a bastardized style of 3 different cultures to make what I want as my end result. So learning from others is definitely a good way. If you can get out of your own way to pick up a new skill and add it to your own, because I think learning from others is me stealing all your mojo and putting it in my pile. And now I know even more stuff. So that's definitely a good thing to do.
So you've rubbed shoulders with some big names out there in the food world. I mean, was there anybody that was non-American that you worked with and had some good takeaways from that you can think of?
Oh, as far as like country of origin, I don't think it's so much where they're from, but whatever their style is.
Right.
And like I worked with Alton Brown, and he's very scientific and very methodical and very planned out. And I was able to come up with some stuff where he's like, oh, that's a great idea. And so, I was a high point of my day for someone who's so analytical to be in that realm. And then I've worked with, some chefs who are celebrities first and chefs second. And, you kind of feel that and you just stay out of their way and let them be a celebrity. But I don't think so much more with the celebrity chefs, but definitely with restaurants. And my favorite source of information is grandmothers. So you really want to learn how to cook, if you really want to learn different cultures and different things, it's cooking with somebody's grandma, because they don't write recipes down and they don't use measuring spoons or anything. It's a pinch of this, a scoop of that. You add it till it tastes right. So you have to learn how to taste. You have to learn how to watch. I'll even play a game with the kids where when I'm cooking, I'm like, tell me when you smell it. Tell me when dinner's ready just by the smell coming from the oven. Because your timer, you can set a timer, but that's not going to cook your food. You have to know what you're doing, what the end result is going to look like before you even get started. Start with the end in mind. Quoting the 7 habits of highly effective people. But yeah, grandmothers are a big source of information. So I wouldn't say the celebrity chefs are doing anything groundbreaking, but they have their image to keep up.
Obviously. So Ryan, I mean, I've seen some pictures of you with some cooks, I think even on a submarine, I saw maybe a photo. How important was food in the submarine fleet? I mean, we all know how important it is, but what was your thoughts, and how did you run that on the commands that you were on?
Yeah, so we food is key, isn't it? Morale. You tell morale just by the food, how it's going to be. And I was really fortunate because definitely on Turbulent we had some really good chefs. And then when we broke down after, so we went on patrol, came back on patrol from that patrol, went into a maintenance period. They found a defect that meant we were going to be alongside for 9 months. So just took all my crew off me, put them on other boats, and I was left with this skeleton, and I had to build up from scratch. And so I used to go across to the cookery school in the training establishment, because they always wanted, they said, oh, can any officers come over, or could a captain come over? And nobody would ever go. And I went, I'm going to go. So I would go at least twice a month over to their competition thing. And eventually I always said I'd never select people for I'd just take who I was given and mold the crew myself. But in this case, I would go, is that guy a submariner? Yeah. Okay, can we make sure he comes to HMS Turbulence? So I had some top chefs when we set out. I mean, absolutely incredible chefs. And then we did a TV program with Heston Blumenthal, and took him to see with us. And what we took away, you're absolutely right. It was a TV program, and the format is, I say everything's all right. Heston tells me it's not. The crew tell me it's not. I say it's all right. Heston changes some stuff, gets a bit angry for a little while, and then everybody's happy at the end. And when he came on board, we turned around and said, yeah, we know it's not all right. We need to fix stuff and make it better. And that didn't make good TV, so they had to shift it around a bit. But he was also really good. He spent time giving some expert tips to the chefs. His second chef, Jockey, spent loads of time with our teams, training them for some of the expert stuff they wanted to do. And they gave us a sous vide machine and a few other things, and made an operational impact. So we're
Are you catching all this, Eric?
Say again?
No, I was asking Eric if he's catching all that.
No, I caught like 10% of it. No,
yeah,
what I took away from that.
I'll break it down later for you.
Yeah,
no, but that's totally interesting.
Yeah, what I got is, because I saw you smiling over there. So yes, you got the TV show. So those guys want to present an image and a certain show style for TV, because you have to have drama to make it work. But then there's reality in the background. But it sounds like it was a win-win at the end. I mean,
it really was.
Yeah, because I'm working with your guys, and everybody learned a little bit something, and then you said they picked up stuff from way, submarine cooks do business too, I'm sure too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, the space. I mean, they were absolutely shocked at the amount of space that was available in order to do this, and how the chefs operated. So within that space. So.
With the limited amount of space. Yeah, one of the weird things about that whole industry is. It's very weird. You have to be successful. You have to be at the top of your game to even get in. And then as soon as you make it, you hide it all. So like with Emerald back in the day, Emerald Lagasse is an incredible chef, extremely talented, but there was so much hate going on just with, the TV show and the BAM and all that. But he was an incredible chef. I mean, to run Commander's Palace is a very, very difficult thing. And once you're at the top of the game, you go on TV and you change up the formula. So it's really weird, but working with Heston Blumenthal, that's got to be great.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so food's definitely a big deal on submarines. If you got bad cook or you run out of food because it gets spoiled or something, you got to break patrol. You got to surface and you got to launch the beast buoys and sub sunk. You got to go into all kinds of drama. You got to have good food and stuff. I did have this one story when I was on the Grant. They opened. I think I told you about this, Pat, too. So on the you get that first in first out rotation thing, obviously with food, right? So you get the food off the tender there at Site 1 over in Holy Lock, and obviously they weren't following that policy. See, we had the surf and turf night once a week. I think it was like on Tuesdays for us. They opened up some shrimp, and this was in 1990, and the shrimp was stamped on the box March 1971, and it smelled so bad that we had to go up and emergency ventilate, just to get the smell out.
I've just been frozen for
20
years.
When it started out, it was just talk about, and then nobody wanted to eat after that. It was just it was just horrid. But that just shows how if you don't have good food, you don't have good people, throwing that down. I mean, I can just ruin your whole day and ruin your patrol for sure. So
you need a good logistics officer as well to make sure they order food. So when I was in the HMS Spartan, we sailed from Gibraltar, and within 2 days we were on powdered mashed potato. And everybody's going, "Why are we on powdered mashed potato?" And he's going, "Well, we're just trying to use that up." And eventually the truth outed, and he failed to order potatoes.
Here's coming. It's not that bad. Just try it. We put a little seasoning in it, sir. You'll be all right.
Potatoes.
That sounds like some of my things covering tracks in the past. So just moving on with some submarine news out there. One of the articles, and this broke last year. A lot of information came out about the USS Thresher loss, and what there was also I think the Scorpion too. I think we had some documents released on that. I think it's when Trump was in office. He released a lot of information. So, I mean, obviously, this new article is from the USNI News. I don't know if you got a chance to browse over that, but it says newly declassified report shows how Rickover worked to explain radiation risk from the USS Thresher loss. So obviously, he made the nuclear navy what it is. I mean, I don't think anybody would have nuclear submarines if he had a lot of power. He wielded. He's very competent. He's kind of like worshipped as a deity to this day. There's a lot of submariners. So it was so coveted that you probably had to, and it was kind of like we were talking about covering up in the mashed potatoes. You kind of have to cover up things to a certain extent to keep the program rolling, because perception is everything. I mean, there's reality, and then there's what's on TV and the political climate that can get charged and run it, and then change the whole program. So obviously, he probably did cover things up a little bit just to keep the program rolling. What's your thoughts on Rickover and how the nuclear navy came to be?
Yes, I mean, big fan of Rickover, obviously for everything he did. I used to think about, so when you're reading over it, you could read it as cover up, or you could read it as just providing enough information to satisfy need. And the reason I say that is because outside of Rickover, I think set it up really well with DNR, naval reactors in place and managing the whole nuclear program across the US. So it wasn't just a submarine thing, that submarine element that would affect. It could be everything. And I think the problem with a lot of nuclear stuff is that people don't understand it particularly well, and the press, because they don't understand it, and it's exciting and it's dangerous, increase the risk that goes with it. And it is high risk, but they increase the risk and they increase the perception of danger. And so some cases with that, whilst you need to be open as you can be, you need to be not selective, but you need to provide the right information for people to understand whilst you understand the whole picture. And I think that's what Rickover did, was provide enough information, but he had the whole picture and he knew how he was going to recover the situation and keep the program going, which is inevitably what he did, and why you've got the largest nuclear powered navy in the world, effectively.
So like our safety margins are so incredible now, because I mean, we've been doing it for 50 years now. I mean, we really got it down pat. But if you think back to that time, I mean, it was cutting edge, it was brand new, not a lot of experienced operators at that point. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just to say, building experience from scratch is just it's just really difficult to do. And if you look at, for example, K-19 and the Russian K-19, or the Mike disaster that they had, that they were trying to do the same thing. And so what you've got is a load of nations trying to build the most complex things that operate in the world and operate them on a war footing effectively, all at the same time, not in a sequence, just get going with it all. And so, that was huge for him to, when you look at it with that perspective and the growth, it was huge what Rickover did.
Yeah, because obviously we were pushing to get boats out there in the fleet too for the Cold War. But the fact that he put in the safety program at the very beginning and demanded, just absolute excellence in everything you do to make it safe, and it carries on today. I mean, we're really just seeing the same business. You see all the accidents in the civilian world with, nuclear power plants and whatnot. And it just, Navy, you don't hear nothing. It's always been, I mean, I'm sure there's been some things here and there. Like you heard the story there at the reactor, and I think it was in Idaho. Some guy went in there and it had some drama, and some rods went to the roof, but, other than that, I mean, it's been an incredible program, and without him managing it the way he did, and, he had to do all that engineering and accomplish amazing feats, and he had to deal with the politics and the politicians.
The politics on the side.
Can you imagine coordinating all that? What's your thoughts?
It's a scary program for civilians. The phrase of housewives and congressmen. I don't know if that's appropriate anymore, but for the general public, they don't want to hear about anything nuclear powered, and to bring it forth, hold it, and then have the entire fleet operate like that, is almost a miracle in itself.
Yeah, he's just an incredible guy. And, without him, we wouldn't be where we are today in technology. And I think I think the type of program that he was running, it's probably gone over into other industries, high tech industries, and
Mhm.
those principles have been adopted today. You can kind of see it with Elon Musk, how he's pushing the boundaries with his program, demanding 50-hour weeks, and the people, they're so involved and they love the program so much that they want to work hard. They want to see it succeed as well. So yeah, I think he really put his stamp on history and put us where we are today. So so we're gonna do like a little advertising. So I got some exciting news for the subvet. So we got a new advertiser, and I'm working with a company called GoldBack.com. Just so we're not going to get into details today, but I will be interviewing the CEO of Goldback soon, and we're going to get some more information. But you can see, they actually got these bills, and they got atomized gold through a special process. Let me see if I can get a
Yeah. I'm like,
beautiful detail on there. But it's actual gold, and it's a special process, and they got all these different ways to make sure it can't be pirated. The technology is single to themselves. Nobody else is really doing it. So they've come up with this. It's called voluntary currencies. It's in 5 states: New Hampshire, Utah's already using it in local economies. Nevada, Wyoming just got it too. So the idea is to prop up local economies in this inflationary time. So being used in the smaller towns, and everybody's agreeing to use it. I mean, I think it's a great idea. At least they're trying to do something. It's an option to the crazy fiat currency markets we have to this day. And obviously, this is not something like any other investment, and Pat can speak to that. You don't jump in with everything into one solution. You got to kind of spread the love out a little bit. But
diversify.
it is an interesting thing. So we're going to go to the subbet.com. I'm going to have the website coming up soon with more information. And the subbet exciting is an authorized dealer, so you'll be able to buy from the subbet to get some of these when we get set up. And we will be, I mean, the idea is to get these rolled out, because some of your gold dealers online right now are selling them for like just way overpriced as something like you put on the wall, a collectible or that. And that's not the reason they were made for. But that being the money man, breaking off my little infomercial, but Pat being a money man, what's your thoughts of people coming up with solutions like that? And I know you haven't read a lot about the Goldback. I just wanted to see what you thought, being a financial guru of sorts.
Well, I mean, it's the diversification. I mean, people invest in art, they invest in coins, they invest in so many other things to convert money into something else and something else back into money. So like with crypto, it's money, but it's other different money. And this looks like a tangible tangible crypto. That doesn't make sense, but it's an alternative, but you can still hold it. And people do like holding things, because crypto gets kind of weird where it's in the cloud. I don't know what this stuff is, but I think with the Goldback, it's interesting. I'll look into it more and see about that. But with Ryan, I was really interested with the currency changing in England, if that's something that's going to become a collectible with the Queen.
Yeah, well, interesting. I think it probably will to be.
So,
but there's a little way to go with that, because there's so much currency around at the moment.
Yeah, so there's no shortage of it. But,
no.
Yeah, but anyway, I just thought that would be something interesting, because I'm learning about silver and gold right now and how to invest. And it seems the hard part is selling it. So with the currency you're talking about, Eric, the fact that you can use it, I can buy it and then use it. That's good, because when you buy gold, you're kind of stuck with it, because you're going to buy at a premium and sell at a loss.
Right. So I mean, and that's the problem with it. It's not what they call it in the gold and silver collecting. And obviously, I'm not real knowledgeable with it. They call it stacking. It's not a stacking thing. It's meant to be a currency. So if you're buying it for investment and to sit on it for years, that's it. Obviously, it's better just to buy your gold coins, your bullion, if you will. It's better to do that. But if you got so many businesses agreed to use this, hey, just a great idea. Good stuff. So, but moving on to the other, man, coming out with since what was beginning of the year with this AUKUS, and everybody just got slammed with that. Just come out of nowhere that they announced this program where, and France was very unhappy because Australia had a deal to build, get the Scorpion submarines from the French, and that deal collapses overnight. And UK and then President Biden get together and announce this AUKUS program. And they're like, "What the heck is that? What's going on with that?" So now there's a big push to get nuclear submarines in Australia because the Pacific region is just becoming one of the hot spots for naval warfare or potential Navy warfare and dominance right now. So pushing on to how. So I mean, we got a bad situation now, and it seems like Australia needs stuff now, but the UK and United States already have a lot of assets in that region to help stabilize and combat the Chinese and Russia, threat. But what do you think, Ryan, about with this AUKUS and why Australia needs a nuclear submarine program?
So I think if we take the strategic situation first, so China, in 2000 announced that it was going to have this 50-year plan in order to become the dominant superpower, and they're way ahead of that. So far, so much so that they had to reset that strategy about 5 years ago. So, and the pace at which they're going is just incredible, and the scale of what they're doing, and actually the quality of the technology they're building. And nobody else is keeping up with it. I saw today the Japanese are talking about building 20,000-ton destroyers, basically to combat Korean and potential Chinese ballistic missile threat. A 20,000-ton destroyer, that's huge, absolutely huge. So, and then you look at Australia, and the landmass itself is just massive. So using a diesel submarine and say a 10-knot surface speed, it takes ages just to get from Perth to Sydney. And then if you turn around and go, well, you've got to go Perth to Darwin to counter the threat, you've got to think about that ages in advance. So nuclear power is above AIP for that matter. Nuclear power is the thing that they need just to be able to proceed at speed. And the problem being, of course, is to establish a nuclear fleet from scratch is really, really difficult. It goes back to everything that was experienced when the US built their fleet from scratch, and we did too. So they'd want to learn from the journeys of ours as we did that. So I think nuclear is the way to go. How we've ended up, the political, I wouldn't call it shenanigans, but the political impact of shutting down the French and going with the Brits and Americans had huge amounts of ramifications, and business-wise, that was huge for France. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it progresses, but it's very necessary.
So there was an article released, I think it was yesterday, Australia's top Admiral Mark Hammond. He's just saying that, and it's true, the U.S. just doesn't. We don't have the base to support building extra submarines. I mean, they're very expensive, complicated instruments of war, and we're building them as fast as we can for our own program. And just to throw in another one is just, that's not reality. Does BAE, who builds the UK submarines, what's their capabilities like? Because I really don't have much knowledge in that.
And this is the other interesting bit. So when the French went into this deal, that it was clear that they were doing that in the knowledge that they could actually produce the submarines in the time frame. The UK, or the UK, US, and Oz pack basically said we're going to do something, but with no real plan in place and how to do that. And if you look at BAE's performance, or the British submarine building performance, is slow. It is slow. It's slow for a variety of reasons. For example, we build one class of submarines, then we stop building submarines, and then we have to recruit an entire workforce to build them again. And they don't come out on time. So for a variety of reasons. So to expand that and build for Australia as well is going to require significant capability, and it's going to be interesting to see how we do that.
It's difficult to, like, because you're right. China's, they just got well, they're kind of like in World War II mode. They've converted all their manufacturing base, and they're building out their military like gangbusters, and it's just it's hard for anybody to really keep up. Is there a chance that Europe could do kind of like the Airbus thing, where all countries are involved and maybe they can build like a modular thing and put it together, similar to what we do here with EB and Newport News? How they roll the modules up and slam it together, and boom, you got a submarine.
I think that'll all come down to so then we're into business versus national interest. And so, for example, when you look at how we built the Astute with the 2076 sonar, that's a French company. It's Thales who produces the sonar. That's a French company, but it's all firewalled because we don't want others to have access to our capability. So you're in this bit with, you're producing something for another nation. You want them to have a capability, but you don't want it to be exactly the same as your capability, just in case.
Man, that's
not that we're ever going to go to war with Australia.
You got any thoughts about that, Pat? What you got?
Well, it's needed, but once again, do you put the mask on yourself first before you help others, or what? So I think it is hard for other countries to lend their manufacturing and technical know-how to another country to help them protect themselves when we're already there. So we could just expand our presence instead of helping them expand theirs.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. So here, China's, because they're obviously they're communists. You got CCP, and you have a quasi-capitalist type environment. But I mean, that I think the way or cooperation, because maybe it's more like you're going to do this and you're going to like it, and that's why they're able to build like that. But we got to get business, and Ryan knows about being a CEO of a company. You got to get business and politics and all that environment to work together to literally put us in a wartime type of economy. And I think we got to realize that's where we're at. We're effectively at war already, but we're not acting like we're at war, if you will, Ryan. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think the world is globalization it's almost, and we're all going to be a happy world, and that's not the case. And therefore, protecting national interest is really important. But I think it takes so long to establish nuclear capability. It is not a case of you sign that pact with them and 2 years later they've got a fleet of SSNs. It's going to take 10 decades to achieve that. And so for me, one maybe they've thought about this too late, and then two, what are they going to do in the interim? Because you're going to say, okay, in 10 years time we'll have 5 SSNs or 8 SSNs. What are you going to do until 8 years in order to provide you with the security you need? And the answer is not SSNs.
Yeah. So, and then you got the Columbia and the Dreadnought class coming online, and all the problems that's rolling out with that already. There's article after article comes out. How they're going to get that done. So, like I said, we have a lot of our own problems and our own interests that we got to work through, and then we got to roll in a program from Australia. And then part of that article where the admiral's talking, he's saying that they might not have the capability to get a shipyard constructed to even get a boat out until the 2040s. So that's not realistic. It sounds like things could go down anytime now, and waiting 20, 30 years really just isn't an option. So what do we do in the interim to protect our interests in that region?
Go asymmetric.
Yeah, asymmetric warfare.
Think differently. We're spending, there's a whole bit about conventional warfare versus asymmetric warfare. And I think in this particular, because you cannot match the numbers that China can do. Yeah. And you've got to wait 15 years before you get sort of a reasonable capability. And therefore you have to look for asymmetric solutions in order to solve it. You do the same with a business, right? You turn around and go, who's your competition? Well, I'm competing against BP, for example. And this is for us. We're competing against BP. There is no way I can match the money that BP can put into this. But I tell you what, I can find a way around what they're doing to make sure that I get my charge points in the ground before they do.
Thinking outside the box.
What we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, Pat, did you have some thoughts on that?
No, I agree with what he was saying, but it's going to be a challenge either way.
So what I find interesting is every country out there, you name the country, everybody's trying to get a submarine program in the water. So submarines are like the new battleships for the 21st century. And you just mentioned how Japan's building these huge destroyers. What kind of capability are they leveraging on building, surface ships? Is it just show, or is there actual defense or some kind of strategy that they're using with that?
Yeah, I think they are. Well, the Japanese are really good at building stuff as well, right? And they've increased their submarine fleet. I think it's like twice the size it was 10 years ago. So they're continuing to build defensive capability because they see the threat from North Korea and China. And I think they also see that with US interests worldwide, they need to fill a void in that particular area because the US can't be everywhere. So and neither can the UK or others. So they're trying to fill a void, and I think this is the asymmetric part of this. If every nation around there is building submarine ships, whatever else, it's about how you coordinate all of that response against a potential aggressor, rather than going unilaterally, Australia, we're going to deal with the problem and forget about the rest of you. And so what you've got to do is use every capability that's available in order to do it, and unify it, much like we do with NATO and how we manage defense in Europe.
Being asymmetric, like you're saying, and thinking outside the box, because times are different with networking that we have. The technology is just incredible as compared to what we had just 30 years ago. So, I mean, you have surface craft, you got all the drone technology, airplanes, and all these things can communicate real time. And the capabilities that they could probably do with that is just, it's mind blowing to even think about, and AI technology rolling out too, on top of that, to be able to build a battle picture in any particular region at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just completely different now.
Yeah, well, it is. But warfare is a human activity, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much technology you've got. It's the brain behind it that wins. And I saw that when I was at sea on the oldest submarine that was in existence in NATO back in 2003, and they were still kicking butt of the surface warriors and everything else, because despite being really old, they were really good at what they did, and it was the people. And so for me, the Chinese conundrum is this: you're building loads and loads of submariners. You could train them all on a course. You could give them all a course to do on A, B, and C. But how do you build up 20, 30 years worth of submarine experience with those experts that can look at a sonar trace, for example, and know instantly that actually what the computer is telling you is wrong, but what this is telling you is right? And that's where the delta is.
It's a good delta, because when technology breaks down, and they're technology dependent, obviously. Yes, and when the technology, all of a sudden, the procedures out the door and all your fancy stuff doesn't work, submarines have got a submarine, and that's where years and years of experience comes in. So were you going to say something, Pat?
Oh yeah, but when your technology breaks down and you don't have the human experience and intelligence to back it up, that'll be a huge problem. Because that's the way we used to troubleshoot back on the boat, where one guy would be in the books and one guy would get a multimeter, and you race to solve the problem. Yeah, you just have to know how to run things and do things.
If your communications drop, I mean, obviously, and you being a submarine commander, I'm sure there's procedures in place on how to operate when you can't communicate with your command structure, and that's what you got to do. You got to use years of experience as a captain. It becomes all you, and how to proceed, and how to run that vessel in a combat environment. So yeah, that's interesting thoughts that we just said here. So anything else, gentlemen? I think that's all we got today's show. I think it was a real good show. A lot of great topics. I really enjoyed having you guys on here, and Ryan getting on last minute's notice. Always a great guest to have Mr. Ramsey here with us. So,
you're very kind. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. So any last minute thoughts, or anything going on in your business world or leadership things you got coming up? Anything you would like to mention?
Well, no, just some podcasts I'm doing, going out, and still writing, putting loads of articles on LinkedIn at the moment for observations of business leadership and aligning it to the submarine world. So yeah, feel free to find me on LinkedIn and hopefully enjoy what I write. Yeah,
and if you want to learn about leadership, Ryan's definitely the man to connect up with. He's got some good stuff going on. I really enjoy hearing him talk about leadership. He was on also John Rennie's podcast, Deep Leadership, too. So you can take a listen to that and learn more about, because John covers, leadership, and that's his thing. He just talks about, call him leadership Jesus. I joke with him. He says I can use that though. So, and Pat, what about you? You got anything going on there in the Orlando, Florida area?
Well, no, I guess I'm starting back up with podcasts with you, man.
So yeah, that's some exciting news. We're not gonna don't want to announce it there, but we're going to be doing like a Pat and Eric thing. So Pat and I, we interned at a radio station back in Orlando back in the 90s.
25 years ago.
Yeah. 104. Yeah. So yeah. So we've always wanted to do stuff like that. So Pat schedules up because life gets in the way. You got to raise family, kids, got to do your thing, and sometimes things don't line up over the years, and it looks like maybe things will line up and we can get something going.
Yeah. So, one of the things that seems to work best for us is to just do it, because we can schedule and it never happens. And you called me last night and here I am.
And that's and Ryan could speak to that. You can talk all day about getting something done or putting a program, or you can just go do it.
And that's how this happens. So now that we're doing it, it's easier to do
it. Great stuff. Hey, I really enjoyed today's podcast. Great thoughts put out there today. Great discussion. So you can find me at thesubvet.com. My email address is eric@thesubvet.com. You can go on our socials on Facebook /the and also find me on Twitter /thesubvet, where I post every day the daily news on submarines and the submarine world, everything. And plus we got a lot of submariners on there, and everybody's allowed to join the social. You do not have to be a submariner. The whole idea of developing this concept with the sub is obviously to get the submarine community together from all nations, but also to get people that want to learn about submarines or might not have any idea about literally what we got going on with, which I call underwater Star Trek, to really get into the world of submarines. Because all the other special forces guys, Black Rifle Coffee Company, plugging them for free. You see all their podcasts, they get their thing of it. But you can come over and you can learn about submarines and join us, listen to our podcast, and you can talk with submarine captains like Ryan Ramsey and some of the socials. So great stuff. Appreciate having you here today, gentlemen. And you can hit Ryan Ramsey up, like I said, at his LinkedIn, and he'll tend to answer DMs on Twitter too. Is that right, Ryan?
That's correct. Yeah.
You can hit them up. And you got any contact information, Pat, you'd like to put out today, or you want to save it for later?
I'll save it for later.
All right. Well, that's all for today. So, and also we would like to throw a big condolences out for my co-host Dave Bowman, whose father passed away on August 28th. He's busy doing funeral details for that. So you can find the official release on his website and through the Dave Bowman Show podcast. And if you can just go on there, maybe we can put some thoughts and prayers about his family and his trying time as well. But that's it for today, folks. So you can hit us back up next time we try to podcast once a week. And this is Eric signing out, and we are the Subvet.